Welcome to Real Shame. It's a bi-weekly podcast.
Yeah.
One of those two, where we talk about movies from our list of shame or from our movie blind spots. I'm Adam.
I'm Andy.
And this week we're going to review Starman by John Carpenter.
Starman.
But before we jump into that review, we always like to talk about what we've been watching. So Andy, what have you been watching?
Alrighty. So I, for no reason whatsoever, other than I haven't seen Zombieland Double Tap, I went back and watched Zombieland, the first one, and then I watched Zombieland Double Tap.
So I don't know. I don't know what you think about Zombieland. What do you think about the first one, and what do you think about the second one?
The first one, of course, it came out like a decade ago now. Yep. And when I watched it, I thought it was fun, but I just kind of forgot about it. Mm-hmm. So when I saw that Zombieland, I think Zombieland Double Tap was on Hulu or Prime or something, I don't know. So I was like, oh, I'll watch Zombieland Double Tap. But I don't remember really what happened in Zombieland other than the Bill Murray part. So I rewatched it. I forgot just how heckin' fun that is. I don't know what I was going to say there. Like, what a hell of a great time. No, I think Zombieland is awesome. I really, really enjoy it. Double Tap was okay. Yeah. Not terrific. It was fun catching up with those characters again, but I didn't feel like the story was nearly as good, and it wasn't as fun to me.
I liked the first Zombieland movie, and I remember really enjoying it when it first came out. I watched it since, and for me, it doesn't hold up as much.
Really?
It's just not as fun as I remember it being. And I think if the new Double Tap came out closer to the original Zombieland, I probably would have been more excited to see it, but yeah, I have no interest in seeing Double Tap, and especially now hearing that you thought it was okay. So,
well, when the previews for Double Tap came out, it didn't look very good to me. And again, I had kind of forgotten all about Zombieland, so I was not going to go to the theater to see it. But like I said, I think it was on some streaming service that I have a subscription to, so I was like, oh, I'll watch it. And then I watched Behind the Curve on Netflix, all about flat earthers. It's a documentary all about flat earthers.
I think I remember hearing about this.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah,
unless you're a flat earther. And then because, of course, we shoot these episodes, obviously, and then they air, a few weeks later or whatever. But right now, anyways, as of the third week of April, the hottest thing going on is Tiger King. So I got tired of seeing all the memes and all the people talking about Carol Baskin and this, that, and the other thing. So I thought, I'm so out of the loop here, so I watched the Tiger King.
We're going to have to get Kirby on camera to talk to you about Tiger King.
Have you watched it?
I watched... Kirby, did I watch the entire first episode or just?
Yeah, the entire first.
I don't know if you can hear it, but yeah, I watched the entire first episode. So you know this, I don't like seeing animals get harmed. Mm-hmm. And I was very nervous about what we were going to see, like kind of abuse towards the animals and stuff. And for me, it's just, these guys are so zany and so out there and so weird. And for some people, that's like what draws them into the show and makes them want to see the show. But for me, I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested. So I just have Kirby fill me in on the details.
I mean, it held my interest, but you know me, I do feel like it could have been shorter. I feel like they could have had less episodes. But yeah, this thing is huge now. I mean, it's blown up.
Did you watch the bonus episode?
Yeah, with Joel McHale, where he interviews the guys afterwards. And I'm glad that the one guy that had more eyebrows than teeth got his new grill, because he looks better. That was one thing about some of these people. They're kind of painful to look at. Not saying I'm not, but I'm just saying that like the guy.
They're gonna comment on our videos. They're very social media savvy.
Yeah, well, sorry.
Yeah, for me, I'm not a big fan of true crime shows, true crime podcasts, and like I said, I try to watch McMillions with Kirby, and like that one FBI guy, is super zany and super out there and super weird, and I'm just like, yeah, I can't stand this guy, and I just like turned it off, and I think Kirby finished it without me. So for me, that's not enough for me to hold my interest on the show, but I can understand why a lot of people are liking it and why it's in the zeitgeist now.
Well, they're going to make a movie and who knows what else from it.
There's fan casting images everywhere on the internet and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but that's all I watch. I mean, because Tiger King took a little while to.
Yeah, because it's like 8 or 9 episodes.
Something, yeah, too many.
Too many.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, I thought it was interesting enough. Sadly. But
And you can shoot Andy an email and ask him if he thinks Karen Baskins did it and all that kind of stuff. But we won't answer. But we won't answer.
Hey, all
that.
you cool cats and kittens.
So for me, what I've been watching is so I don't know if you know this. I don't know if the audience knows this, but I'm a huge Martin Campbell fan, the director.
Okay.
So Martin Campbell directed Goldeneye.
Okay.
Best James Bond movie, Pierce Brosnan era. Best James Bond movie in the 90s, and I would say kind of in the 80s too. He directed Casino Royale. Best Daniel Craig James Bond movie. He directed The Mask of Zorro, a underrated, amazing movie.
Is that the second one?
No, that's the first one with Antonio Banderas.
Okay.
He also directed The Legend of Zorro, which I didn't even know existed. It's the sequel to The Mask of Zorro. I didn't know there was a sequel.
You didn't know there was a sequel?
No, with Antonio Banderas, with Catherine Zeta-Jones.
You literally just found that out.
By Martin Campbell.
You literally just found that out. Wow.
Yes, I literally found this out. I was watching Patrick H. Willems' review of The Mask of Zorro, and that made me want to watch The Mask of Zorro. And then he said there was a sequel, so I bought that on Amazon so I could watch it.
I could have told you about it.
Yeah.
I didn't know you hadn't seen it.
But I love The Mask of Zorro. It's written by the guys who wrote Star Trek, the Star Trek remake. I can't think of their names right now. Not Ted Elliott, and Terry Rossio, who wrote The Mask of Zorro. And I hate to say this, but you can definitely tell that different writers on it.
Oh.
Because I don't think it holds a candle to The Mask of Zorro, in my opinion.
I've seen. I mean, it's been years since I've seen them. I seem to remember both of them being really fun, but I'd have to rewatch them to.
Yeah, it's just if I think the overall kind of story and idea was interesting, and it just felt like it wasn't well executed, and I don't know the behind the scenes on it, so maybe they were rushed or all that kind of stuff. It does take place 5 years later, I think, both in the movie and production wise. There was a time gap in there, but it's just. It doesn't feel as special as The Mask of Zorro was. And even though it kind of had the same people in front of the camera, had a few of the same people behind the camera, it just didn't quite mesh and quite meld together. So I was super excited to see it, and then that's kind of...
You were like...
yeah, a little bit on that.
Wah, wah.
And that's basically what I want to talk about, what we've been watching. So with that...
Well, and I just want to say that but there's only one Matrix movie. There was never any sequels to that. Just don't go looking for the sequels because there's not any. There's just one Matrix movie. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if there's ways to like zap our brains, like Sunshine of the Spotless Mind kind of thing, where we could forget about certain things, it would make things so much more magical.
Yes, it would.
But it's still a fun movie. It's kind of, and I wanted to watch The Lone Ranger after that, but Kirby kind of vetoed that.
The Johnny Depp, the Armie Hammer one. Yeah, I liked that one.
I think it's fun.
I thought it was fun too. Yeah.
Kind of have the Pirates thing going on, Pirates of the Caribbean, because you have Gore Verbinski, I think, who directed the first Pirates movie. Actually, directed the first 3 Pirates movies, and Rango and this, and then Lone Ranger. So kind of the same creative team.
I hate that Gore Verbinski's name is so similar to Gore Vidal. And every time you say Gore Verbinski, and I picture Gore Vidal. And you know who Gore Vidal is. If you don't, look him up. Okay.
And I hope it's Gore Verbinski. If not,
it is.
Leave a comment and let us know.
Well, or at least that's the name. I know that name is correct. I don't know that he directed these movies, but I know he directed The Ring.
Did he really? The remake?
I believe so. The one with Naomi Watts.
All right. Well, with that, let's go into John Carpenter's Starman.
Shit.
Don't mind him. He's just learning to speak English.
Well, he's got a hell of a start on it. Who's the deviled egg on white toast?
Yes.
Right. And the super burger, 2 Orz fries, 2 chalk malts, and 2 Dutch apple pie with whipped cream. I had a wedge of it myself. It's terrific.
So Starman is directed by John Carpenter, and it stars Jeff Bridges, and I said Margot Kidder, but it's not Margot Kidder. No. It's
Karen Allen.
Karen Allen. I put Margot Kidder in my notes for some reason. No. Because she looked like Lois Lane to me.
Yeah, I guess I can kind of see that.
Yeah. And the premise of Starman is that, and of course, spoilers for this, is that Margot Kidder.
Karen Allen.
Karen Allen.
Just say Marion Ravenwood if you if you can remember that better.
Marion Ravenwood is mourning the loss of her husband, not Indiana Jones. Starman crashes down from outer space, assumes the look of her ex-husband, now deceased husband, and needs to get back to his planet a la E.T. So they go on a wild, zany road ride from Michigan, I think.
Wisconsin.
Did I even watch this movie?
I don't know.
All the way down to Arizona.
Yeah.
And hilarity ensues.
Yeah.
So
hilarity ensues.
I knew nothing about this movie except for I heard, and this is the movie that you haven't seen, but it's also a movie I haven't seen.
Oh, okay. I thought you had seen it. Okay.
I watched like the first 20 minutes of it like months ago.
Okay.
So I basically haven't seen it. The only thing I knew about this movie was that it was a gem of the 80s. Like a lot of people really liked this movie, and it had Jeff Bridges in it. So I was going into this almost blind.
Gotcha.
So what were your thoughts before seeing the movie, and what were your thoughts of the movie?
So before I say what I felt about the movie, I went and I looked at John Carpenter's filmography.
Yep.
Every theatrical film that he's ever done, I have seen. Theatrical film. I haven't seen all the... he did some TV stuff, but I haven't seen all that. But every theatrical film he's done, I had seen, except the most recent one he's done was a decade ago called The Ward, which I've never seen. I don't know what he's been doing the last decade.
I remember The Ward.
I have not seen The Ward, and I had not seen Starman, which is bizarre to me because I feel like I'm a pretty big John Carpenter fan. Yeah. And I've seen all the other movies they did in the 80s and the 70s and the 90s and whatnot, but I'd never seen Starman. And again, like you, I mean, I knew they had Jeff Bridges in it.
Yep.
I knew they had Karen Allen in it, and I knew that Jeff Bridges was an alien that was trying to get back home or whatever, but I didn't know a whole lot about it besides that. I loved it.
Oh, really?
I thought it was fantastic. Yeah.
That's very cool.
I really, really dug it. I like the fact that it... I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some scenes that I thought were a little strange that we could talk about, but I really, really, really was riveted to this film. I enjoyed the fact that it's a road movie, kind of first and foremost. It is science fiction, but it's kind of a road movie, and there's also like a little bit of romance in there. There's a little bit of comedy because the way that Jeff Bridges kind of talks in the movie,
and he got a
Academy Award nomination.
Yes. I also thought it was a choice, and it made me laugh a lot. More probably than it probably should have.
Yeah, it does, but at the same time, I bought it because I felt like he was trying to do, obviously he does not know, he's assumed the body of Jeff Bridges or Scott or whatever his name is in the movie. He's assumed this body and he's just trying to talk or trying to enunciate and say things. And I mean, of course it is kind of laughable. I mean, if you didn't laugh at it, I would think something was wrong with you. But still I didn't feel like it detracted from the story.
Yeah.
So, but I loved it. I thought it was great. And I was impressed that, so he did The Thing, which is obviously amazing movie, but it's so dark and dour. And then he did They Live, which came after Starman, which is a little more kind of parody kind of thing or whatever. Satire, I guess, is a better word for it, and all about consumerism and stuff like that. And then in the middle, he does Starman, which is like this crazy alien love story road movie kind of thing. So I was impressed. Yeah,
I was reading on IMDb, and it said that he did that because he felt like he had to make a commercial movie. Otherwise, no other studio would employ him. So he kind of did it like, because The Thing notoriously came out the same year that E.T. did.
E.T., right.
And then after everyone saw this friendly, lovable alien, E.T., they didn't want to see the alien that, separated his head and grew spider legs and scurried about.
Right.
And also, I was reading on IMDb that this movie was actually at the same studio as E.T. So both scripts were kind of ready, and then I think Columbia kept this one. I think it was the studio, and they let E.T. go, and then they sat on it for a while because E.T. did so well and all that kind of stuff.
And I know John Carpenter was not originally attached to direct. I know they kind of went through some other people before he kind of got a hold of it. So it wasn't like a pet project of his, like Halloween or The Thing or something like that. So I found that kind of interesting. and not something that he wrote either. And he didn't do the music. It was Jack Nietzsche that did the music for this movie. And I think, no, he did not get nominated for an Academy Award. Maybe he did. I can't remember. Anyway, what did you think about Starman?
I thought it was good. I think there's some parts of it that are kind of dated, and it was kind of hard for me to kind of sit in this movie and kind of enjoy it. I think it just, to me, overall, it felt really long. The movie just felt kind of long. And I think the reason why it felt long was that I felt it was kind of not eventful, the movie itself. And also, like, I felt like there was no sense of urgency for them to get to Arizona. Like, he did give a time frame, and, you know, she had like 3 days, you know, by noon on the third day.
Yeah.
But it never felt like they were running at a breakneck pace, or that they were, you know, they needed to get there. They seemed to kind of be taking their time a little bit to get from Wisconsin to Arizona. And, you know, I just wish there was more. And I know they were being chased and all that kind of stuff, but I wish there was more like an antagonistic relationship, and there was more of a sense of urgency kind of propelling this movie along. Does that make sense?
It does. I didn't feel that way at all. I mean, I enjoyed the journey, even if it was maybe a little slower than you would have liked. I enjoyed the journey. Obviously, they can't get on a plane because he doesn't have a passport or anything like that. Or maybe he could have used Scott's passport, but surely they would go, this guy's dead or something.
I don't know. Would systems fail check that?
I don't know. Who knows? But still, I felt like they couldn't get on a plane. They do get on a train at one point.
Yeah,
and
but
that's
they
where
like hobo it on the train.
They hobo it on the train, and that's where they have the little love scene, which I thought was awkward.
Which
honestly,
is hilarious.
I thought it was very awkward. I enjoyed the kind of romance aspect, but I didn't need to see them go.
I love his post-coital bed talk.
Yeah,
where he's like, I gave you. There's a baby in you.
That part of the movie I could have done without.
It's a son if you want it.
Yeah.
And then, like, I know all the Republicans watching this, like, you're gonna keep that baby. Wait, it's probably not appropriate, but whatever.
Speaking of babies, I do have to point out at the beginning of the film when because the way that the alien, what happens is the alien,
that baby's scary.
I'm glad you never see what he looks like before Scott, because I was like, I don't want to see like a little green man or some Close Encounters of the Third Kind of thing. So all you see is his POV as he goes into the house. He finds a scrapbook that has a lock of Jeff Bridges' hair, and so he's able to take the DNA or whatever from that and clone the body. But it starts off as a little baby, and then it quickly grows into a full-grown naked Jeff Bridges, while Marion Ravenwood or Karen Allen is just standing there aghast. But the baby looked like Kawatu from Total Recall, the guy that like has the little thing on his belly. Yeah, I was like, it's Kawatu. He's making a cameo.
I wrote, alien baby is horrifying. And so is the growing mutations.
Yeah, that was weird, but
I do.
The baby was weird anyway.
I do want to. I mean, like, I also wrote, lucky that she had a piece of his hair so the alien know what to clone. Like, I feel like.
I mean, you got to jump off the story at some point.
I do, and I feel like it would have been more. I mean, here's me. You know, we're over 20 years later, right? Mm-hmm. We're almost 30 years later after this movie, right? So I do feel like her watching the home movies and being sad is a little bit of a trope now. And like, it's a little bit played out, right? And overdone. So for me, like, I think they're trying to establish her mourning and her missing her husband and stuff like that. And for me, it just kind of like, it didn't resonate because it's just, I felt like I've seen that so many times. Yeah. And I thought like, and so that whenever stuff like that happens, my filmmaker brain kind of kicks in, and I think, okay, well, this is not working for me. What would work better? And for me, like, I think a scene that would work better is like if she's like having to move and she left like one of the rooms or left a box of his stuff untouched, and she's going to have to move. So now she has to kind of focus and pay attention to the stuff she's kind of left behind because she's been grieving or whatever. And then that kind of kickstarts, and then you can see like her journey and where she is with that. And then in there, maybe there's that red hat, and that has a strain of his hair. Like, I felt like there's a better storytelling way. There's a better way to tell that story, you know, to where she's missing her husband, and then we need to get, you know, that kind of stuff told, and we need to get the alien some kind of DNA to kick off. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So for me, like, And again, this is us, 30 years from now, or 30 years from when this movie is made.
Yeah.
So looking on that with those, 2020 glasses or whatever, obviously we're going to have a different perspective because things have changed in the language of cinema. But for me, like, that kind of just, it didn't pull me in emotionally because I just felt like it's been done so many times before. I felt like I just said 3,000 words in 2 minutes.
Well, that didn't bother me. Some things that did bother me is, like you said, some of the stuff does look dated. The whole thing, they're running from the cops. He crashes into this tanker and they blow up, but he uses his little silver sphere.
Yeah.
So he has, I think, seven.
Yeah,
is that
yeah,
right? Seven silver spheres.
7 miracles.
That's like a tongue twister. 7 silver spheres.
I called them the Phantasm
I think I'm
spheres.
spitting all over you. Sorry.
You are.
But so he uses those for various things. He heals a deer at one point that's dead and strapped to a guy's hood.
Just wasted one of those spheres you could have used.
Yeah, he's curious though about like why is this thing dead? He's learning about life and death. But he uses one of the spheres to protect them from this explosion. But it makes the cops and everybody think that they're dead, at least momentarily. And then he's kind of carrying her out of the fire. That whole thing looked ridiculous to me.
It did, but I do think him outside with the sphere, using it to contact the mothership or whatever, was awesome. Like with his hair standing on end and stuff like that. Like I do think,
about that.
Like the special effects this is the great thing about these special effects, right? So they won't hold up to like modern standards of special effects, but because of the way they are and the age and the way they're done in this movie, they just work and they're fun and they just add to the greatness of the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Some of the special effects I thought were good. I like his little map too, where he's like, "Nyeh," and he's got like the map of the United States.
I like how
over here.
And see, and this is where like the analytical like side of my brain kicks in because I'm like, so has he seen a map of the U.S. before? Like, why is he showing a map of the U.S.? Like, you would think they would show, like, we don't have state lines from outside. Oh, you're talking about from the gold plate or whatever? Is that on there?
I mean, maybe. It had all kinds of stuff. Yeah. I mean, at the beginning, what it is the
Deidre.
Voyager 2. It's Deidre, yes. It's the Deidre wishes to reunite with Creator. Voyager 2 is flying through space, and Voyager 2 and Voyager 1 were launched in the late 70s, in 1977, as a matter of fact. Voyager 2 was launched first, then Voyager 1 was launched a few days later, and they're both still going. Do you realize that? That's crazy. But they're both still going, but they both had these gold records on them. I don't know if they had video screens. In the movie, they've got like little video screens, and it's showing video images. So I presume he saw it from that, because according to him, he remembers kind of everything that he sees and or hears or whatever. So
I do like the idea that he has his little 7 silver miracle balls. I do think he wasted on the deer. He wasted one contacting his home planet. No,
well, he had to tell him, well, like, come pick me up or whatever, right?
I do think it's interesting that the time it takes for him to heal the deer is a lot different than the time it takes for him to heal. What's her name?
Karen Allen.
Say,
well, her name in the movie is Jenny, and the reason I can remember that is because a few times he sounds like Forrest Gump because he's like Jenny, which I was like, hey, Forrest Gump copied that.
But I wish like it would. I don't know. Why do you think it took shorter time to heal the deer than it took her to?
I don't know. You're reading into it too much.
And her reaction of coming back from the dead is like non-existent.
Yeah,
she like wakes up, and
I felt like she would have been like, "What happened?"
Yes,
and I thought that she was going to be like, "I died," like what happened or something, and have some kind of moment like that, but she does not.
I think that would have been more interesting, and I guess when he brought her back to life, he repaired her reproductive systems because didn't she insinuate that her and maybe it was on Scott's side that couldn't.
Yeah, I wondered that myself. Yeah. Maybe it was Scott that couldn't.
So there was some, like I said, because I wasn't that invested in the movie, there was some things, and this is actually going to come up on some of the other movies we're reviewing later on. The analytical part of my brain kind of kicks in, and I start questioning things. Why am I seeing this? How does he get this knowledge and all that kind of stuff? So, but overall, I do think it's a kind of fun movie of its time. I don't think it kind of holds up to some of the better John Carpenter movies. I do think he's kind of all over the place with the quality.
I actually think, now that I've seen it, I think this is his third best movie. It's that high for me. I really, really dug it.
Well, hopefully we have a viewer question that'll ask us what we think our favorite John Carpenter movies are.
Oh, hopefully we will.
Anything else you'd like to add with Starman? I'm looking through my notes to see if there's anything I want to add on here.
I got a few things. Well, I wanted to know what did you think? So you've got Karen Allen and Jeff Bridges being chased. They're being chased by this NSA guy.
Yeah.
Who that was another thing that I had a slight problem with. I thought, hey, cool, this is a movie where these guys are trying to chase them, but they're not, at least in the first part of the movie, they're not really actively out to harm them.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the movie, or towards the end of the movie, the one guy's like, oh, we're going to dissect him, and he's strapped him to a table. Or suddenly he turns like big bad guy.
He turns into Donald Sutherland from
Outbreak. From Outbreak, which, I mean, he's not quite that bad. He's not like Snidely Whiplash twirling his mustache or anything like that. But I didn't like the fact that he kind of turned like that. Charles Martin Smith is the other guy that works for SETI.
Okay,
yeah. He's in your favorite movie, Untouchables, is the little nebbish accountant guy or whatever. But he's in this movie, and he's a very sympathetic character. He wants them to succeed.
I love how he
ultimately.
answers the phone at his Cordell shirt.
Oh yeah,
it's like, what? Yes sir.
Right. But that was another thing. They corner them at the cafe, and he's just like, no, it's the wrong people, so they just let him go. I didn't buy that at all, but still, I liked Charles Martin Smith's character, and I didn't like the turn that the little NSA general guy or whatever takes kind of towards the end. I felt like that was out of place. But I thought the cinematography, like, because they go out, they're traveling through Arizona and all these different states. I thought, like, there's a lot of beautiful vistas and whatnot that you see in the film. And there's the part where they're riding in the back of the pickup truck and their hair's just kind of blowing everywhere. And they've just got, like, this long scene. I loved all of that stuff. I thought the scenery in this movie was really great.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think it's awesome. And I think I was reading on IMDb that John Carpenter said he kind of wanted it to be his love letter to America and wanted to shoot all over the place and show all these different vistas and stuff like that. Yeah, I agree. I do think I did make a note that it was interesting that they were firing missiles as the warning shots.
Yeah, that was silly. I was like, yeah, they're actively trying to kill these people. They're like, no, we're gonna shoot. Yeah. Blam. No, we really are gonna shoot. Blam. You know, it's like you're already shooting. You're already blowing us up. Thanks.
Ultimately, this movie kind of gave me vibes of Close Encounter of the Third Kind. Mm-hmm. And it made me want to see Paul again.
Oh,
the Greg Manola movie.
That movie. Yeah,
but you know, it's the same kind of story-ish. You know, it does happen. It was created 20 years after, but I wanted to see more movies of this ilk to kind of understand this movie a little bit more and understand my feelings about it.
Well, if you want to see another movie with silver balls, check out Nightmare Weekend, which is a really, really terrible film. But the silver balls are sinister in that movie. But trust me, you'll love it. I promise you will.
So I think that's all I want to say on Starman. Anything you wanted to add on Starman?
The only thing I would add is kind of a postscript to that was, as you mentioned before, Jeff Bridges was nominated for an Academy Award for this movie, for Starman. He was actually nominated a lot. He did not win until he won for Crazy Heart in 2009
Which
or 2010,
I like that movie.
Something like that. But what I thought was funny was the year that he was nominated for Starman, the guy that actually won was F. Murray Abraham won for Amadeus, where he plays Salieri in that movie. And I thought that it was ironic because if you know the story of the Amadeus movie or you know the story of the Amadeus play, Salieri's always the guy who's overshadowed by Mozart. And Tom Holtz, who plays Mozart, was nominated also for Best Actor. He lost to the guy that played Salieri. The irony.
The irony, guys.
I thought that was pretty funny. And then in 1986, they did a TV series of Starman.
Yes, I saw that.
One season where apparently he comes back. I have not. He comes back and his son has grown up, but it doesn't have, I don't think, a Karen Allen character. I think they're looking for her in the TV series or something like that, but I haven't watched it. I'd be interested to see it, though.
And the movie also has, shares some DNA, or feels like it kind of shares some things with E.T. a little bit, too. Like I said, a little bit in the description.
Yeah.
So I really kind of want to see some more movies like this, and that way I can kind of start cementing my opinion on Starman, because I thought it was good, but there's some parts of it that just kind of left me wanting a little bit.
I recommend Brother from Another Planet by John Sayles.
Is this a serious recommendation?
Yeah, no, it is. It's not Nightmare Weekend.
Okay, fair enough.
Check that out. And you too. Check out Brother from Another Planet, John Sayles.
All right. Well, if you check out Brother from Another Planet or Starman, feel free to shoot us an email. Mm-hmm. We'll answer viewer questions online. We'll answer viewer questions in our episodes. Our email address is realshame@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram @realshame. And Wednesday, the next episode, we're going to be reviewing another John Carpenter movie, and that movie is going to be
Dark Star.
Dark Star.
His very first movie.
His very first movie. So come back, subscribe, and we will see you next time when we talk about Dark Star. Bye, guys.